Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is a recap of the presentation that we gave on Thursday, April 11th, for various families in MBUSD at Miracosta High School and Manhattan Beach Middle School. My name is Jonathan Erickson, Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment for MBUSD, and I'm excited to go through a shorter version of this presentation for people that either couldn't make it or wanted to get the details again. So the agenda is introductions, which we just completed since it's just me this time. We'll talk about some myths in math education, successfully navigating math courses at the secondary level. And when we say secondary, we mean middle and high school. Off-campus course policies, college admissions perspectives, and frequently asked questions. So these are a couple myths and truths. So one myth is that you're born good or bad at math. The truth is that anyone can get better at math with focus and practice, and that's something we believe strongly in. We don't talk about aptitude a lot. We believe that even if some people maybe pick up math more quickly, that's true of any sport or any subject. But we really want people to have the attitude that if they put in the time, they can be highly successful at math and at a very high level of rigor. The second one is being good at math is about being good at doing mental math. And I think, especially in the early grades, there might be some students that can do math really quickly in their mind, multiplying numbers. And that is good and that helps in math. But it turns out as the more advanced that math gets, it is very important to be able to communicate effectively in writing. And that's both working out problems and explaining in words the solution to a problem, the answer, and all those kinds of things. So definitely there shouldn't be an overemphasis on doing mental math. Another myth is mathematical thinking is this whole different thing. Oh, I just don't understand it. I don't get math. I prefer reading and writing, other subjects. But again, the truth here is that both rely on well-developed skills in logic, reasoning, and proper use of rules and conventions, symbols. Symbols in math are much like punctuation in writing. It's something that the better you get at it, the more clearly you can communicate. So there's actually a lot of crossover, especially as you get farther along in math and in English. Finally, the drill and kill practice is best. That again, that's maybe true for arithmetic and kind of some basic skills in math, but when you get higher in math and you get more challenging problems, you do need to do something different than drill and kill, something more substantial. Okay, so successfully navigating math courses is a big focus of this conversation. And a couple points here is that math is an important subject that builds upon itself. So there are some courses like health, which is important and connected to science and other things, but you could talk about a specific part of health on its own, and you could do that in a lot of different ways, and you could do it at a lot of different times. You don't necessarily have to do that before or after another class. I guess ideally health would come after biology, so you have more grounding. But when it comes to math, you absolutely need to do it in a sensible progression. That's why we have names like Algebra 2, Algebra 1, and Algebra 2. You would never want to take Algebra 2 before Algebra 1. But what we've started to see is that sometimes through summer acceleration or taking online courses, when you compress a course, students may not get as much out of it as they need. And then that can create problems later on. And the last thing we want is for a student to be misled that, oh, if I take this course online and I get an A, then I mastered everything in it. And Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 are two of the courses that we feel is you should definitely take a year-long version, ideally with us, to make sure that you're most prepared. And also, student social emotional wellness is critical. We don't want students overstacking their schedule, overstacking their summer. And then there is research on this, just a lack of continuity. If students take too many things too quickly or overlap or stack math classes, that can create some problems. And so as far as this concept of summer acceleration, which can work for many students under certain conditions, it's not for everyone. And we'll get into that a little bit more deeply. So these are the big questions that we hear a lot. Number one, should my student take summer math courses for advancement? The first part of that answer is that summer advancement is possible for all students. So again, we're not talking about aptitude here. We're not saying that there are smart kids or not smart kids. The truth is, all kids are capable of this. All kids are capable of being successful, even with summer advancement. But there are some conditions that don't have to do with aptitude, that just have to do with um, other qualities that will help determine how successful they will be. So, number one, have they been successful in prerequisite rigorous courses? And successful doesn't necessarily mean getting an A, but it means definitely not failing. So we want to ask ourselves, have they taken the prerequisite course? So if you've passed, Algebra 1 with success, you're probably ready for the next course. But if you take geometry online, for instance, or some other course online that maybe wasn't as rigorous, you could be misled, to use the word I used before, saying that, okay, well, I completed the prerequisite, but if the prerequisite course wasn't rigorous enough, even if you did well in it, you may not have learned all those foundational skills to be successful in the next class. So number two is passionate about mathematics and motivated to learn. So this is a big one because obviously as kids get older, whether they go to college or not, they start picking more classes. Eventually they're going to pick a career. And we have to ask students this question: what are you passionate about? Sometimes I worry that we ask questions that aren't really questions, like, should do you want to take this? But because you should take this. I really think you should do this. You should do that, right? But if you first ask a student, do you enjoy mathematics? And the student says yes, then a great follow-up question is, would you like to take a class for summer advancement? Yes, that sounds great. But if a student says, no, I don't like math, well, first let's figure out why they don't like math. Let's figure out how to get them excited about math. And once we get there, then we can start talking about summer advancement. But if a student's not already excited about math, summer advancement may not get them excited about math. Now, there's other summer opportunities. They might take some, fun course that doesn't necessarily for advancement. Maybe it's more of a math enrichment. That'd be a great idea. Get them excited about it. And then maybe later they'll be ready for a more formal course. And then finally, do they have the capacity? And again, just to reemphasize this, capacity is not the same as aptitude. So we're not worried about aptitude. All students are capable. But when we talk about capacity, we mean time and energy to fully commit. So if your family has a lot of things planned for the summer, doing a lot of traveling, maybe doing some other activities, maybe it's not the summer for also stacking on a math course, especially if it's going to be online. But if you're sticking around and can do a true summer school course in person somewhere that's reputable, then that could be worth it, especially if you meet the other two criteria that we mentioned here. So just be reasonable. Don't force it. We really want kids to be successful. And if you can say yes to all three of these, they probably will be successful. So then the next question is, if my student does want to advance, when and how should they advance? And that's what a lot of the rest of the presentation is about. This one's a little bit harder to see, but it is on the website at Miracosta, and we dropped the link in the presentation before, and we can probably drop it in the message that sends us out. But essentially, if you look at these different pathways, you see that there are opportunities to take geometry over the summer. And if not geometry over the summer, the only other class that we're really recommending for summer advancement is pre-calc honors. So for instance, if your student is in the standard track for sixth grade math, that means they're on track to take pre-calculus as a senior. If they really wanted to take calculus as a senior, no problem. They can take Algebra 1 in ninth grade. They could take geometry over the summer, and then they could take Algebra 2 as a sophomore, pre-calc as a junior, calculus as a senior. And then if they want to get to AP Calc BC or something else, or if they're already on the compacted math track and they want to get ahead, then really geometry would be the first course that we would recommend over the summer, and pre-calc would be the second one. But again, we only recommend that for students that are ready. If you're taking geometry over the summer, you should probably be taking Algebra 2 honors afterwards. If you want to take pre-calc over the summer, you should probably be taking Algebra 2 honors before that. We just want to make sure that if students really want to go with that accelerated track, that they're doing all the right courses to make sure that they're successful, because it is challenging, and that challenge should be welcome and enjoyed. or it should be postponed and avoided, because it's not necessary to do this accelerated track. It's only possible. And that as kids get older, the statement, and I'll say it again towards the end of the presentation, that we hear from college counselors a lot is it's better to do some things really, really well than everything okay. And that's probably true, obviously, not just in regard to getting into college, but in jobs or other things we do. We don't want to spread ourselves too thin. We want to make sure that whatever we commit to, we can follow through on. So here's just another way to look at it. So thank you, Ms. Cunningham, a teacher in TOSA at Miracosta High School, who helped kind of look at it in a flow chart this way. But just so you know, once you get to high school, there are a lot of different pathways, and you see ones of support, like some students that are behind can also start in pre-algebra, on track in Algebra 1 and ahead in geometry. But once you finish geometry, you have a lot of choices: Algebra 2, Algebra 2 honors. The reason why we put including trig or with trig in these is because trigonometry is part of our Algebra 2 classes. It's important if a transfer credit were to come in from another school, that it would have trigonometry in it. And you see all these other classes. And it's okay if you took AP Calculus AB as a junior. Maybe you want to do BC, maybe you want to pivot to AP Statistics. So lots of different options. Okay, off-campus course policy. And so this is from Miracosta specifically, is that they can only be taken during the summer and not AP or honors. That's the first bullet. Only courses taken in summer after 8th grade may count for the transcript. Specifically, taking an online course during 8th grade is not accepted for transcript credit. So I think it's very important. Now, it's fine for a student to take a course online for enrichment and deepening their knowledge. We just don't recommend that they take courses online for advancement. Now, taking a course the summer before 9th grade or after 8th grade, that can count for high school. But again, not to be a broken record, but please make sure that the student has success in prerequisite courses, passion for the material, and capacity or time to get it done. Not aptitude, but those other three things. Number 3 here, only courses also offered at our school may be taken off campus for placement on the MCHS transcript. So in other words, if a course sounds like a course of ours but has a different name, then that doesn't apply. Okay, we really need to really need to make sure that that if you take it off campus, it's also something that we have at our school regularly. So it's apples to apples, not apples to oranges. And then finally, students should make sure that if you do take an outside course, that it's WASC accredited, college preparatory level, UC approved, and meets the NCAA requirements. And I put in parentheses here, note that WASC accreditation is the lowest of these requirements and does not imply high rigor. So not to trash on other schools, but it is very possible for an online school to be fully accredited, but have an online course that looks good on paper and has a lot of good content. But if the accountability isn't high, it's possible for a student to complete that course, get an A, and maybe learn half as much as they would have in an in-person course. So we just, again, the word that comes to mind is misled. We don't want families to be misled when they're told, hey, your student got an A in an online geometry course. That's great. I'm sure they got something out of it, but they probably didn't get what they would have in a full year-long class. So I think of online courses as great opportunities for enrichment, maybe developing skills. There's some great online courses, for instance, in learning how to use Excel that I've seen people do. So in terms of boosting specific skills, exploring things, online school can be great at this age. But as far as a total course replacement, we haven't seen a lot of high quality online courses. So this came from our college admissions perspective. So the counselors at Miracosta talked through this slide when we did our live presentation. But basically, a lot of the same information. When summer school is an option, it is certainly not required or encouraged to meet high school, grad, or college requirements. So, college admissions, people like to hear a story. And if the story is you took a summer school class so you could take this other class and do that, that makes sense. But just seeing students fill their summers with courses is not necessarily interesting, especially if they're not getting A's in all their other courses. They would kind of scratch their head and say, why is the student taking so many extra courses if they're not passing their regular ones? But if a student failed a course and retook it over the summer, that looks good. They'd rather redo it over the summer so they can keep moving at pace. They just don't like to see students take courses for advancement and then not do well afterwards, because that doesn't make sense. Bullet number 2 is it's more important for students to challenge themselves while also making sure they have a balanced schedule and are happy and healthy. So certainly the trajectory of society for a while seems to be, to do more, do more, do more. And it's true. The number of like top rated colleges, hasn't changed. Of course, there's always only so many that can be in the top amount, and their acceptance rates don't keep up with population change and all those kinds of things. So we get that it's more competitive than it ever was before. However, a competitive student is a happy, healthy, balanced student, not somebody that's trying to do more than they can do and burning out. That doesn't help. And then we don't want them to get into the college and not be successful there because they burn themselves out either. So it's about finding balance. There's a college, career, whatever after high school that is appropriate for everyone. So everyone, we think, will be successful and should have options. We just want to make sure that they don't overcommit or overburden themselves, so that they don't, get to enjoy their time in the journey to college or career. We want both. We want them to get where they want to go and enjoy the journey there. And then finally, college admissions reps have definitely shared that they prefer students to make use of resources on their high school campus. So they like to see students take 4 years of math, for instance. So a student that took classes to advance in math, let's say takes AP Calculus as a sophomore or junior and then stops taking math, they would want an explanation. What was the rush? Why take all that math to advance if you didn't want to take multivariable calculus or whatever next? So just keep in mind that they really like to see 4 years of math, even if 4 years of math isn't required. Colleges do like to see that. So we went through a bunch of questions here. And so because we can send out a link of the presentation itself, I'm not going to read all these questions, but I'll just leave them up here for a moment to be processed. And I could just elaborate a little bit on the SAS program. In this first bullet is a program at the high school for students that may have challenges in more than one class. They would actually get a period during the schedule where they could get support in more than one class. So if you think your student at Miracosta needs support in more than one class, you could talk to the counselor about the SAS program. Okay, so we have some more questions here. This first question, we weren't sure if the suggested letter grades for honors classes were meant as a prerequisite or within the honors class, but the answer is the same for both. It's a B or better. Students should have a B or better in the prerequisite course and maintain a B or better in the honors course. If you have less than a B, it's probably better not to take the honors course. And we always think leveling up is better than leveling down. So when in doubt, take the regular class. If the student doesn't feel challenged enough, move up to the honors class. That we always recommend that. But if you're unsure, putting them in the honors class and having them struggle and level down, that's a lot more challenging psychologically. So we always recommend start lower and level up. We also have the difference between Algebra 2 Honors versus Algebra 2. And Algebra 2 Honors is really recommended for students who plan to take honors pre-calculus, AP Calculus. I think it was also added by one of the math teachers that in Algebra 2 Honors, there's really an expectation of independence that students, may meet to collaborate and, work on things together. But in general, they're independent. They're capable of doing the class on their own. They don't need a tutor. So, Algebra 2 Honors, is a signal that they have that. Now, all students should take at least Algebra 2 to graduate. I mean, it's not required as a graduation requirement. 2 years of math is, but it is part of the A through G requirement for UC's, University of California schools. So we really want every student to get through Algebra 2. And that's one reason why we have more than one Algebra 2 offering is whether or not they're taking Algebra 2 honors to prepare for more math classes or they're taking Algebra 2 regular because that's what's right for them at that time in their plan. And then down here, we talk about the differences between the different AP calculus classes. But in general, anytime you see AP, which means advanced placement, and it's a college board program, it means a college level course where they take a test and can earn college credit. The non-AP calculus class is still very important, especially if a student maybe already has a full load of AP classes and they don't want to add another one. They could take regular calculus, take away the stress of the AP test, but still set themselves up for taking more advanced courses in math in college. So we're a big fan of the non-AP calculus course as an alternative because they still get a bunch of information to set them up for success later. And then if a student wants to take calculus by their senior year, if they're on the compacted mathway for middle school, they take Algebra 1 in 8th grade, they're on track. But for somebody that's on the standard pathway, there's a couple options. They could take one course for summer advancement like geometry, but midway through middle school, you could also get on the compacted pathway. So let's say a student starts off in regular 6th grade math and again feels the need to be more challenged. They could move up to 7th grade compacted the following year and still take Algebra 1. So again, the message is level up, right? When in doubt, take the lower class, and if the student's not challenged, we move them up and everybody feels really good. We just caution against the reverse. If a student doesn't seem ready, if you put them in advanced class and they struggle, it can cause a lot of stress, and psychologically it never feels good to be told you are leveling down, you're going to a lower class. It feels much better to say you're leveling up. So that's why we always prefer to do it that way. And then how do you challenge your student out of school? I mean, the first thought we always have on this is don't challenge the student out of school, or challenge them in sports, challenge them in doing their chores. But when it comes to academics, of course they have homework and they need to do academic things at home. But balance is a word that we just can't say enough. We want a balance. We want them to be doing non-academic activities. The research is clear on this. Kids are happy when they have a lot of different things, when they're having fun, and not just only worrying about school work and academics. And then I answered this a little bit earlier, but it's true that universities are looking for 4 years of math, at least through Algebra 2, and they are looking at strong grades in all math classes. So once again, there's no point in accelerating unless students are really ready for it so that they can maintain those high grades, so we'll get them into the college they want. So thank you very much. This is the very short version of the hour-long webinar that we did yesterday, but I hope that you found this helpful. And with this video, we sent out contact information of different people at Manhattan Beach Middle School and Maricosta High School. If you have further questions, once again, I'm Dr. Jonathan Erickson, the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment at Manhattan Beach Unified School District. I was a former math teacher myself. I love math. I love talking about these things, and I hope I get to meet you in person sometime. Thank you.